He dislocates his knee, which resulted in them immediately having to take him to the hospital. There's a lot of arteries involved. So, as Stefania Bell quickly and smartly pointed out, when you dislocate your kneecap, there can be huge ramifications. So, luckily, so far, looks like some of that has been avoided. But we've learned from Adam Schefter this morning that Tyreek Hill has torn multiple ligaments in his knee, not the least of which is his ACL. So, he's out for the season at least. And this is the sort of suffocating moment where if you're a Dolphins fan, you're trying to celebrate a win that maybe keeps your season on track, while at the same time, Caroline, acknowledging that you might have just lost the most important piece to actually accomplishing more this season.
Yeah, the news came out this morning and confirmed what I think we all probably assumed. It was one of those injuries that if you were unfortunate enough to watch it in real time or to see the replays circulating across social media, you probably expected that Tyreek Hill would be out for the remainder of the season. And I hate that for Tyreek Hill. I hate that for this Dolphins team and this Dolphins fan base. I don't know how many games the Dolphins realistically could have won with Tyreek Hill. From what we've seen through the first 4 weeks, it seems like the Dolphins are probably a 5 or 6 win football team, maybe at the very best with Tyreek Hill. I don't know how they get to 6 wins without Tyreek Hill. So that's a Dolphins fan base that I think has already felt pretty miserable and pretty pessimistic about this season. And look, rightfully so. Now you feel even worse. And look, Mike McDaniel spoke at the podium and said, "I've never seen someone go down with an injury like that and be as optimistic and happy as Tyreek Hill was." Not the reaction that I expected as he was getting carted off. So it does feel like this Dolphin season is done. It has felt like this Dolphin season is done really right after it started. But I'll ask you, Tyreek Hill has been in this league for a very long time. He's not getting any younger. What makes him so special is his speed, and speed is something that goes with time. So not only is this Dolphin season feel like it's pretty much over, is Tyreek Hill's career over as well?
I mean, I never want to root for any of that sort of situation, but if you're being real, he's 31, right? He's a 31-year-old wide receiver that will be 32 before next season starts. Best case scenario with this sort of an injury, even not knowing the full extent of it, as we sit right now, we know it's at least an ACL that's going to keep him out at least a year. And then he's going to have to come back and be the same player he was. And as you mentioned, so much of his route tree and his special ability has been built on his speed, which is why even as he's hit his 30s, there's been questions. Like, we all understand his contract situation already gave us a situation where he might not be back in Miami next year anyway. Now you just got to look at it and say, if and when he comes back, who will he be? Can he be the same Tyreek Hill? I certainly hope so, but I think it'd be fool's gold to presume that that's the case, right? Like, this just feels like the beginning of what will be a long rebuild to get to the other side of it. And by the time he gets to the other side of it, he's now going to be a 32, 33-year-old wide receiver, still trying to find how to get that next gear of speed back. I think it's tough. And we've seen similar injuries. Again, we do not know yet the full extent of this dislocated kneecap and what it will mean. But we did see Nick Chubb come back from this injury. But I would say that there's a big difference between a Nick Chubb coming back as a running back and Tyreek coming back as a burner speed guy that just absolutely, you have to adjust your defense for where he's going to run. I don't know if we'll ever see that version of Tyreek. And when Tyreek does come back, who will it be for? And will they have patience? And will he want to sign the type of deal that somebody coming off of that catastrophic knee injury likely wants to get? I think there are so many unknowns right now, Caroline. The only thing we know is that this season is done for Tyreek, and this is going to be a long road ahead for this man. So my thoughts and prayers obviously go out to Tyreek's recovery. I just wonder if, even if we see him on the field, will we ever see the right version of Tyreek on the field again? If I had to bet my house on it, the answer is probably no.
Which sucks, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
there are some guys that I watch on any given Sunday and can say, how lucky are we that we get to watch this man play football, that we get to watch this player be the best at what they do. Like, that's what I think is so fun about the NFL is look at all of these guys who are doing things that nobody else on the planet can do. Tyreek Hill is that kind of player. that special type of player that I feel lucky to have had the privilege of watching on any given week. Now, of course, he has off the field issues, and I think that's a separate conversation and, something that will, be a part of his story. But just for the sake of our argument, the NFL is not as fun of a league and football is not as fun of a game when we don't get to see and watch Tyreek Hill playing it. So I hate that. I wish him, nothing but the best moving forward. But as we look at this Dolphins team, you get a win, which is great. You always want to win more than you want to lose. Obviously, hot take from me there. And of course, there's a little bit of a gray cloud hanging over that win with the Tyreek Hill injury. But do you feel like you learned anything about this Dolphins team last night? Like the offense looked good. The offense was humming. But was that more of a product of this Dolphins offense is starting to figure things out and look like maybe the 2022, 2023 versions of itself? Or is it this Jets team is just that terrible?
No, I think that the Dolphins made some offensive adjustments that helped them, and Darren Waller coming back helped them also. We'll see if that's sustainable. But
Darren
I mean, yeah.
Waller,
So
fresh out of retirement. Old
look,
guys need love too. Congratulations to Darren Waller. My goodness.
those paper hammies held up for a game. So let's see how they handle the rest of the season. Nice to see Darren Waller back on the field and being who Darren
Yeah.
Waller is, which is a spectacular pass catcher as a tight end. So that was fun. How much of that is sustainable? None. Like I think we walked away from last night knowing in our heart of hearts that the Dolphins are done and that the Jets are done. Like these two teams essentially a month into the season got eliminated from the rest of our consciousness for the rest of the year. We'll still talk about them because that's our job, and we'll still watch it because that's part of what we love doing. But I don't think either of these teams are serious playoff contenders. I think we also learned that the Jets are just going to be a long process to get back to right. Like I think there is a focal point here on the Jets and their mistakes. The number of fumbles, it was just inexcusable. And the fact is the Jets just made too many mistakes to win a football game because bad teams find a way to lose. I keep saying it, and it's true. It's what the Jets did last night. It's still part of their culture. They have a long road ahead to get just to a competent football organization.
I woke up this morning and I had a list of people that I feel bad for, my empathy list, if you will. Tyreek Hill is on that list. Dolphins fans are on that list. Garrett Wilson is also on that list. I feel so bad that Garrett Wilson has to play for this crap bum team. Like we saw Garrett Wilson make two spectacular catches last night. One called back for OPI, which I thought was a very soft call. Whatever, conversation for a different day. But Garrett Wilson, I mean, like he can go one on one against anybody. He can catch anything. It's like he has, glue on his hands. Everything that comes his way, he comes down with. And we don't, and we probably won't talk about Garrett Wilson in the same light that we talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow, because that iteration of the Bengals without Joe Burrow is stinky, and we will get into that. We won't talk about Garrett Wilson in the same light as those other elite receivers in this league because he plays for the Jets. And I hate that because Garrett Wilson probably does belong in that conversation, but he plays for a crap bum team that won't win anything and hasn't won anything. 0-4 on the season. So I hate that for Garrett Wilson. And I hate this for Jets fans that you bring in Aaron Glenn at head coach and you think, okay, this is the guy. He can be the guy that has Jets DNA. He can turn this team around. And of course, success is not linear. And, success isn't going to happen overnight, especially when you're taking over a truly, truly dreadful franchise. But I think you saw maybe some hope in week 1 against the Steelers. Yes, it was in a loss, but that was a shootout. You could maybe start to see, the wheels turning, things coming together. Reason for optimism was maybe fair and justified, even in a winless season. But last night, 13 penalties for over 100 yards, 3 fumbles, and then you get Braylon Allen hurt. Like, I don't know where the sense of optimism can come from. The only bright spot on this Jets team is Aaron Glenn going viral for his dancing on the sideline. I don't. It's not written into the United States Constitution and into religious scripture that the Jets have to suck. Yet the Jets just suck no matter what. And I don't think that we should just, as a football society, just say, oh, well, the Jets suck. The Jets are always going to suck. Because this team should have been different. We're only 4 weeks in, but there hasn't been any piecing together of things that would make you feel better about this football team.
That's the argument every fan makes of every bad team. It's just impossible to break out in the mud. They're stuck in the mud. Also stuck in the mud are the Cincinnati Bengals. That was our other game in the doubleheader. The Bengals just get absolutely shellacked by the Broncos, 28-3. There were 4 players over the weekend that had more offensive yardage, like yards in the game. 4 players had more offense than the than the Bengals had as a team last night. That's actual fact. That's how bad it is for the Bengals.
Disgusting.
And look, this isn't, to me, I don't know how much we can take away from the Broncos. They beat a bad football team. The Bengals are a bad football team. At some point, I'm just looking at Zac Taylor saying, what in the hell are you doing? What exactly do you bring to this team if your team, as we've learned, is essentially put Joe Burrow out there and we're great. When we don't have Joe Burrow, we suck. Like, I want my head coach to be able to figure this out because there are still other pieces healthy here. How do you have an offense, especially for an offensive-minded head coach? How do you have an offense that's just wildly incapable of finding a way to get the ball to 2 of the best wide receivers in the NFL? I don't care who your quarterback is. I don't care that you're on your backup quarterback. You should at least be able to get a first down in a game. Good God, Zac Taylor. Like, what is this Bengals offense? Because right now, it's just garbage. And I understand that you've got your backup quarterback, but you're not the only team that's had to play with the backup quarterback. I will remind you, as we've said on this show, 50 quarterbacks started in the NFL last year. What does that tell you? It tells you you have to be prepared for the possibility, especially when you have an injury-prone starter, that you might need your backup. Now you got to that point, and what we've learned is that your organization is incompetent. Like, what exactly does Zac Taylor bring to the table? Because I've never felt more today than I do today that Zac Taylor is useless to the Bengals, and Joe Burrow is actually the quarterback, and maybe the coach, and maybe the entire damn team.
I don't think you're off base with that in the slightest, because it's not crazy, breaking, earth-shattering news that a team loses an elite quarterback, a top 5 quarterback in this league, and then takes a step back. I think any team in the National Football League, any team in any sport would take a step back when you lose a key cog like Joe Burrow is to that team. But it shouldn't be that bad. That bad. I mean, the Bengals kicked a field goal on their first possession, and then after that, throughout the entirety of the game, Fitz, they didn't even get into Broncos territory. They couldn't even get past midfield for 57 minutes of that game? That's disgusting. I don't care if you have your backup quarterback in. That is inexcusable, especially when you have the offensive weapons that the Bengals have. I know they've invested a lot of money into Joe Burrow. They've also invested a whole lot of money into the rest of that offense and really into the rest of that roster. So not even being able to get past midfield for almost the entirety of the game, that is football incompetence. You say Joe Burrow might be the coach. I mean, frankly, I kind of watched that firsthand in the 2019 LSU football season. Joe Burrow comes in as the quarterback. They win the national, year 1, they go to a New Year's 6. Remember when we used to have those? And then to the national championship game. Joe Burrow leaves to go to the NFL, and LSU's a 500 team, and Coach Ed Orgeron is gone the next season. We have seen Joe Burrow be the quasi-coach of teams before. We have seen Joe Burrow single-handedly not just raise the offense around him, but elevate the entire team around him. So I think it's a fair question that you ask. Zac Taylor, what are you doing? What can you do? Because it didn't feel like that Bengals team could do anything last night. Granted, against a really good Broncos defense, but they're not that good. They're not keep you past midfield good.
Yeah, and by the way, if your argument is, well, they played really good teams because they've now lost to Minnesota and then obviously last night to a Broncos team, as you mentioned, has a great defense. Well, they've got the Lions next week and the Packers after that. So how's that going to make you feel? They do get some breaks after that. We'll see. We'll see exactly what the level of panic is for the Bengals. Are we going to reach the point where it's just time to start tanking for next year? We'll see how it all goes in Cincinnati.